Let's see. Nuggets and Avalanche. Wow. The Nuggets tickets, $120 a piece. Row 4. The Avalanche. Wow, these are great tickets. I'm keeping these. These are awesome. I don't know how much those tickets are. These are like $120 also for the Avalanche tickets. That's a piece. All cards, please bring your cards up. If you don't have it in, you don't have a chance. No. Sorry, Ross. Everybody got it?
It's only because the lenders have over.
There's a few more people in the back. Have you gotten your cards in? We're about to do the drawing. Run them up here real quick. And we're going to start picking. No names announced yet. Just about to, though. Put it in there. JB? Did you bend the corner? Bitzer, you're a funny dude. Okay, all cards in. Last time. We're going to go ahead and do the drawing now. I want to introduce Trevor. I want to introduce Trevor. Trevor Brown. The famous Trevor Brown. He's been in this business even longer than I have. And I'm fossilized. Okay, here we go. No, I want you to go. I'd like to introduce you to Lauren Pelly. She's an associate with Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. Please give her a big hand.
Good evening. KSE is really happy to hand out these tickets, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Don't look.
Tyler Johnson III.
Tyler? Oh, Dad, come up here. So, Nuggets or Avs? Okay, you're out. Check another one. Nuggets or Avs? Welcome. Congratulations.
Eileen Moore.
LBA Realty. Eileen?
Or someone who can accept them for her.
Eileen? Yeah, Dennis. Eileen? Or her brother, Scott. Eileen? Thank you. Congratulations.
Drew Notestein.
With Thomas and Tyler? Drew Notestein with Thomas and Tyler? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lauren, thank you so much.
No problem.
And let's give a big round of applause for KSE.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Denver, earning my master's degree in real estate and construction management. I chose the Burns School at the University of Denver because it's a highly regarded reputation here in Denver, as well as throughout the nation, due to its combined focus in the real estate and construction management markets. With graduation next week, I hope to pursue a career in the real estate development industry and feel my degree will promote a solid foundation for my future success. So if anyone in this room is hiring, come see me at the booth. I am here today to introduce Kelly Bruff. Kelly is the president and CEO of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber represents over 3,500 businesses with 300,000 employees working for those businesses in Colorado. Prior to joining the Chamber, Bruff served as the Chief of Staff for the City and County of Denver, and Mayor John Hickenlooper? Lopper? I'm from Seattle. I don't say it that often. Is it? Well, then I should know that. Overseeing a general fund of $857 million. She also served as the Deputy Chief of Staff and Director of the Denver Office of Accountability and Reform, and was the first female Director of Human Resources for the City of Denver. Bruff earned a Master's of Business Administration degree from the University of Colorado in Denver in 1989, and a bachelor's degree in Sociology and Criminal Justice from Montana State University in 1986. She currently serves on the boards of the Denver Metro Chamber Leadership Foundation, Visit Denver, the Denver Public Schools Foundation, and the corporate board of Delta Dental. She also serves as a member of the Women's Forum and the Chamber 100 with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Bruff was recently named as one of Colorado's 10 most influential women in the Denver Post and one of Denver's most influential people by 5280 magazine. In 2012, Bruff received the University of Colorado Denver Campus Alumni Recognition Award. She has attended a number of leadership programs, including the JFK School of Government's program at Harvard for state and local public officials. She was also named an American Marshall Memorial Fellow in 2001. Bruff's TEDx talk is titled, "I Survived by Outrunning My Brothers," an apt description of her early childhood. She was raised in a small town in northern Montana, close to the poverty line, and quickly learned that her sense of humor was her best defense against two much larger brothers. Her family is extremely close, and her parents now reside in Denver, as does one of her brothers with his family. She has raised two beautiful daughters, one a sophomore at the University of Vermont, and the other a high school senior. Please help me by welcoming Kelly Bruff.
I had asked her if she watched the TED Talk, because I have never been introduced with my TED Talk. I survived by outrunning my brothers. But now you know I'm really not intimidated by men at all because of how I grew up. It is such a pleasure to be here. I love this time slot in a program as well. You know, the last hour before you get to have a drink, and we're just going to talk to you for a while. So I know it's going to go great. I also get a chance to introduce the panelists today who are going to be your presenters. And they were supposed to each give me a tidbit to introduce them, an interesting fact, but they failed to do that because you're kind of a curmudgeon-y bunch, aren't you? I need you to bring a little more energy to this particular session. So I made up my facts about you guys, so let me know what you think. I'll start with Tim Ritchie on the end. He is the Executive Vice President of Cushman & Wakefield. That's not made up. And he's going to talk to you today about institutional investments. Here's what's interesting in his bio. I want to know what the heck happened in 2009 that you were such a low performer and weren't the... Oh, so sorry. It's not very funny to them now, is it? Okay, next is Alec Rhodes. Alec is the Managing Director and Principal at Cassidy Turley. This is a firm that has been particularly helpful to us at the Chamber in the last year. Our thanks. He's going to talk to you about the industrial market. And I would just say to you, 5-time triathlon Ironman finisher. That's impressive. Totally consistent with the Colorado brand that we're healthy. Next is Natasha Felton. Natasha is president of Colorado Commercial Companies. She's going to talk to you about the office market. Here's what I love most. Her bio talks about golf and Porsches. And I would just say, for kids today, that might be a way to get them to come into the field, is to show them some of these bios and the kinds of things you get to do. Please welcome Natasha. That's for you guys. Next is Alan Lampert. Alan is a partner with David Hicks and Lampert. He's going to talk to you about the retail market. And this guy simply serves our community, as best as I can tell, on a lot of nonprofit boards. Did I get it right? Oh, actually, that was Jeff. You guys are out of order on my list. So what I said about you is it appears you only work. Yeah, you work too much, Alan. You work too much.
I've got the triplets.
You have triplets? I missed the triplets. How old are the triplets?
4.5.
4.5. So it's a cakewalk from here on. And are they Gender?
I don't want 2 boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl. The girl will be easy, is what I will say to you. And last but not least, Jeff Hawks. He's principal at ARA Real Estate Investment Services. He's going to talk to you about multifamily. And this is the guy who serves on all of the nonprofits very clearly. You're going to accept that? Do you want to add how many children you have or anything else? No triplets for him, not yet. And by the way, I love if you laugh at my jokes. It feels particularly rewarding. And so credit to Kitty Hook for doing that for me and being here today. I really am going to skip my long presentation on the economic situation in Colorado and Denver in this region. You've seen most of it. I saw the presenter before us who shared with you. There's a lot of good news going on in Colorado. A lot of extremely positive examples of our diverse economy being more successful than almost any other metro in the United States, including our housing market. That said, I am going to challenge you in an area, and you will hear specifics in all the categories I shared with you, so you're not going to miss out on details and lots of substance. But I think we have a couple of areas we should all be extremely concerned about, and they don't have to do specifically with the field in which you work. What they have to do with is who we are as Colorado. And when we sell Colorado around the world, we sell a centrist, pragmatic business community where you can have stability and certainty in everything you do here. And it sells extremely well. We sell a very highly educated, healthy workforce. And it is very true, Colorado is the second most educated workforce in this country, and that sells in the world. And that has been a very competitive advantage. But I'm going to tell you something. I think in the last year, some things happened that have changed the perception and the brand of who we are. And I think it's incumbent on every single one of us to figure out how we're going to take it back. Because I think it hurts our competitive edge, and I think your industry will feel it as well. And there's 2 places I'm going to focus in terms of where I think that's happening. And I'm going to challenge you to think about what each of you should be doing yourselves and in your companies to figure out how we fix this. The first thing I'm going to tell you, how many of you read The Economist? So in the world, The Economist is probably one of the higher read magazines that may write about the United States once in a while. There was probably 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks, an article about Colorado. Did anybody happen to see it? One person, that's great. So you can help me with the headline, because I'm going to get it a little wrong, but in essence, here's what the headline said. Drugs, gays, taxes, and guns. Colorado is not a middle ground state. And that's in a magazine that is being read around the world. And those issues, many of us did not see as a business nexus on most of those issues. We didn't weigh in when the legislature was dealing with those issues because they weren't close to much of the economic strategies that we have deployed. And yet I will tell you, as a brand for our state, we are now working doubly hard to convince the rest of the country and the world that we are still the Colorado that they know. That those things have not taken us off a center. And no matter what we believe, if they did or they didn't, we have to bring it back. We each have to figure out what that looks like. And my challenge is, as funny as it is to talk about pot and marijuana, and that we're one of the states who had legalized it, I think we have to be very disciplined about that. We have done a few things to ensure that it doesn't impact our economic vibrancy in Colorado. Employers have the right for zero tolerance, and we pass that in our rules. We've ensured we have had 2 court cases that reinforce that right for employers. And why is that important? Because when I sell a very well-educated, healthy workforce, rarely do people believe being able to smoke pot is part of that package. And we have to help the world understand it's narrow and it's limited in Colorado, and it won't affect the success of their business. We have to convince people they can expand here and be successful here. We have to help our elected officials understand the choices they make brand our state and impact our ability to sell Colorado, who we know we have to be successful. And I would ask your help in doing that, especially in January as the next legislative session begins. And we have to have people thinking about the bigger picture, not piece by piece. And the second thing I'll tell you that I'm very concerned about is we sell ourselves, and frankly, it's true. Our reality and success here has been based on our collaborative approach. And we collaborate across almost every possible avenue you could think of crossing when you come to get something done. Not just regional collaboration, but we cross party lines. We cross from public, nonprofit to government lines to accomplish our goals and objectives. I think in the last couple of years, we've had a number of examples that show us not crossing those lines. And I think in the beginning, when you start to see the small examples, we all look at them and shake our head and say, gosh, that shouldn't happen. But I'm going to tell you something. If you don't think it hurts our competitive edge, I promise you, people know our success here because we're smaller, because we don't have some of the natural advantages of a big ocean next to us. We have to work harder, and we have to work together if we're going to accomplish those things. And I'm going to highlight for you some of the places where I think we're not crossing industry lines to work together or some other party lines. I think our legislature has shown an inability on the toughest of issues to cross those lines. I think the partisan politics in the state is only getting worse. I think the recalls, no matter how we all feel about them individually one by one, as a continued approach, are more divisive than if we come together to solve the problem. I think the division between urban and rural could be extremely challenging, and I think the best people to bring urban and rural together are the urban part of that equation. I think Fast Tracks was an example where we saw challenges in delivering the system in the time frame that served the entire region, and we're working very hard to come back together. I think our higher ed institutions compete against each other. When you're funded 48th out of 50th in the country, you probably got to find a way to come together to ensure they're delivering what we all need to be successful, and they're getting what they need. I think our oil and gas industry is being decimated for their potential because we're not showing up to challenge views about our ability to frack and protect our environment. And it is a time and a place where each of us, I think, can share a view about how we can do that safely. Every other state is figuring it out. I think our educational system is competing, whether it's from early childhood to K-12 to higher ed, instead of coming together and saying if the entire pipeline doesn't work, we won't be successful. And I think our airport development is another example. And what I'd say to you is maybe none of those are on your list right now of areas that impact your direct life or your direct work, but they will be if we continue with this trend. And my challenge is to ask you what you think you can do in our own environment to ensure we come back together and solve these problems thoughtfully and put people at the table so we can move forward. Because if we stagnate on our economic growth, we know it stagnates everybody's success. So now that I've completely depressed you, we're going to move on to some reports from our panelists in each of the market areas we talked about, and then we're going to give you a chance to ask us questions or challenge some of the things we said. Does that sound okay? So how this works is if I get one head nod, it's consensus, and so I just keep going. So if you're the one who disagrees, you got to shout it out, okay? Did I get a head nod? Yes, thank you very much. So I think we're going to start with Tim Ritchie as our first presenter. So please welcome Tim. Oh, we're starting with Alec Rhodes? Yeah. Oh, so sorry. Alec Rhodes. We just sat in an order to confuse me.
Good afternoon. Before I get to talking about the 2013 industrial market, what I want to do is start to lead with a little bit of year-over-year trends to kind of give us a baseline as to where we are today. I promise I only have two graphs for you. This first graph right here in the green shows vacancy all the way back to 2006, and the orange represents offering lease rates. You can see that things peaked out in 2007 and probably the first half of 2008 before Lehman Brothers, and then took a nice slide all the way down to 2011. In 2011, we were telling our tenant clients to go ahead and lock in lease rates because we knew that lease rates were going to be going up, and sure enough, you see the spiking, the steep spike in lease rates starting in 2012. But as you look at that graph, the one thing you don't see is a big spike in vacancy during the recessionary years. In fact, it really didn't even get above 9%. Instead, what we had were industrial companies that kind of hunkered down. They went to their landlords, they asked for rent concessions, and landlords did blend and extend lease rate deals. The landlords at that point were all willing to go ahead and make that real estate deal happen to avoid vacancies, and thus I think it's given us a quick upturn in lease rates since 2012. In this graph right here, this is now sales, and in the green, this is deal velocity, the number of deals that we're getting done in the 5-county metro area on an annual basis. The orange represents price per square foot. Once again, you can see that things spiked in 2007 and then tailed off, and the spigot went dry in 2009, but you can start to see the deal velocities come back, and I'll tell you, I've got a theory as to why I believe it's not going to get much higher than where it is right now. but look at this price per square foot. Where we are today is only about $5 a square foot on average from our absolute peak in 2007. I think these stats right here show that, in fact, our market is in really good shape. Right now, I would say over the last 3.5 years, we have positive absorption in virtually every single quarter. Our market demand, our market recovery, some people say that the economy itself is in recovery, and that's fine, but from a technical standpoint, the industrial market's been in expansion for over the last 16 months. Demand is up, both on the user side and the investor side, even though there's an increase in pricing, and as I said, lease rates are going up. Key story so far in 2013, first and foremost, is speculative development. We've got 3 projects being built right now northeast, 3 southeast, and I would even throw in IBC's development at 120th as a speculative project as well. Each one of these projects is receiving very good feedback in the market and good activity. And if you just take the northeast market specifically, there's 3 projects: Enterprise, Prologis, and Randy Hurdle's development in Majestic. Those projects all total 1.4 million square feet. And as of today, virtually half that square footage is already leased. I think this is going to continue. I think you're going to continue to see a real good trend with speculative development. The other story is this crazy absorption. Just when we thought that our market was just about as tight as it could be with 6.5% vacancy, we up and absorb another 1.5 million square feet just last quarter alone. That was second to only Memphis in the entire country. So I would tell you what we have right here are active industrial companies that are looking to optimize operations within Denver. On a 24-month history, I would say on average, we've probably tracked somewhere between 5 and 7 million square feet of industrial requirements. Currently, right now, we're tracking over 10 million square feet of active requirements, and that doesn't even include the absorption that we had last quarter. What does that lead to? It leads to frustration for a lot of us that are working with companies that are looking for space. Trying to find a building in Denver right now is very difficult. If you're a 100,000 square foot user looking for a building either to lease or buy, central, you've got 3 options, and that includes every classification, A, B, and C. And I would tell you that a lot of the C properties that we thought may have been repurposed, redeveloped, have been leased for marijuana grow operations. So I think what it's causing users to do is really think outside the box. You have to look at other geographic areas. You have to think about build-to-suits. You have to think about retrofitting a building that may not be a perfect fit, or even retrofitting the facility that you're in right now. By the way, he's right there. So what's driving our market? Well, the good thing is there's a myriad of different industries that are doing well right now in Denver. Food and beverage, for whatever reason, Denver has been a hotbed for food and beverage for the last 5 years, on both the distribution side as well as the production side. Manufacturing, we talked about it a little bit this morning. I would tell you that manufacturing in Denver and really around the country is doing well, both high-tech and low-tech. E-commerce, the Amazon effect, while Denver may not be a primary beneficiary at this point, we have seen some derivative business that's primarily come from the final mile deliveries. Construction and building supply. Think about this. 25% of our industrial space in the metro area is occupied by companies that are somehow affiliated with construction. So when there's residential construction and or commercial construction, you can imagine that that industry is doing well, and thus the space they occupy is doing well. And then last but not least, the other green economy, marijuana. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. What we're seeing right now is actually pretty fascinating. What we're seeing is the consortium of investor, grower, and dispenser all working together to refine their craft in our city, whereby the investor goes and pays cash for a building. The grower, who's now really optimized their operation, is willing to pay a premium for a legitimate grow operation, and they've got a good relationship now with the dispensary that can get the product out. My thought is they're probably going to master this craft here in Denver and then take it to the other states as it becomes legal, albeit for medicinal or recreational purposes. On the investment front, I'll hit on this real quick. You know, if you're an investor, owner, and you're trying to think about, all right, when's the best time to sell in the next 5 years, I think you'd be hard-pressed to think that there's a better time than right now to sell. Right now, we've got strong demand from every investor group out there, albeit high net worth, friends and family, private equity, institutional, and they're going after every single size range within investment properties. Low interest rates. We've heard a lot of different opinions on where we think interest rates are going from Mark and Rick and Howard this morning, but let me put my spin on it. buying power for buyers is directly associated with interest rates. And so as interest rates increase, the buying power of a buyer obviously decreases, right? I think that when a seller or when an owner realizes that the 30-year mortgage is going up for residential, and they see the 10-year treasury going up, maybe they're the ones who are going to be instigating putting their property in the market because maybe they're the ones who are thinking that the window's shedding. We've seen increased lease rates, and yet we're not peaked out yet, so I think it helps with blue sky projections on go-forward cash flows. It really helps in underwriting investment properties. And of course, with a 5.9% vacancy rate, stabilized rent rolls are a key for investment sales. So where do I think we're going? You know, I think the fundamentals that we have in place right now are solid. I think they're going to be around for a while. I think we have rental rate increase steady, and I think we also have renewal rates. Imagine if you're a tenant that did that blend and extend in 2010, 2011. They may be shocked right now when they are up for a renewal. Now all of a sudden they've got this bullish landlord that's going to ask for $1 increase in their rent simply because they can do it. And yet I still think leasing activity is going to be strong. I think the demand is out there. I think with the onslaught of this new speculative development that we have, I think that's only going to help spur more activity. Sale prices, I think, are going to continue to go up. We know that we've got that $5 a square foot threshold before we even hit the glass ceiling of 2007. But I do think sales activity is going to be flat simply because we just don't have enough product. Vacancy, you know, don't quote me on it. I think that I was the one who didn't think vacancy was going to go down any further, and now it's at 5.9. I don't think it's going to drop anymore, especially with this new speculative development coming on. Investment sales, I do think you're going to have more sellers realize that this is a good time to sell. So I think you're going to see more opportunities come on the market. And last but not least, speculative development. I think with the success that these projects are having right now, look for phase 2 and phase 3 of these projects as well as other speculators coming to the market. And with that, I thank you for your time.
And I think next, please help me welcome Natasha.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking on behalf of Expo Airlines. I'd like to welcome you on board this flight to Recovery, Colorado. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
So several of you have hit your call buttons over the last 6 to 12 months with complaints over the amount of time that we've spent on the tarmac waiting for clearance to take off to recovery. In February of this year, Colorado regained all of the job losses that it sustained during the recession. We were the 11th state in the nation to claw its way back into positive territory. And what I believe is that the gradual nature of our recovery has made it difficult for us to perceive the gains that we are making. I actually think we pulled away from the gate and that we're second in line for takeoff, and flight is imminent. To get you safely to our destination, we'll go through a little bit of a pre-flight checklist. We'll talk a little bit about the demand for office product here in Colorado, the supply of product that we see, as well as trends affecting users and space that comes to us. To have a dynamic and sustainable recovery, you have to have two things. You have to have job growth, and you have to have a deep labor supply. And thankfully, Colorado has both. According to Forbes, we're the fourth fastest job growth in the nation. And per the chart on the left, you can see that our growth has almost bested the nation by a factor of 2 to 1 this year. On the right-hand side, you can see that our population continues to increase, most notably from in-migration. We have more 25 to 34-year-olds coming to our state than any other state in the union, which from our perspective as office brokers is critical because companies are coming here because of our labor supply. We've got a labor supply with longevity, and we have a lot of it. Demand for office space typically comes from 3 different sources. We have organic growth, which comes from users that are currently in the space and in the state and expanding. We have in-migration from users hoping to come here and build their operations, as well as new startups that are born here in Colorado. 2013 exhibited strong demand from a variety of users throughout the state, and as you can see, each category of growth is well represented. I pulled these users to illustrate how diversified our economy has become. You know, those of us who've been here a while know that it isn't that long ago that we were known as an energy state, and then after that as a telco state. And as we rode each one of those cyclical swings through difficult recoveries, we figured out that we needed to diversify our business base. In 2012, 36% of our white-collar job growth came from 7 key industries. And of these industries that you see on the bar chart on the right-hand side of the screen, 6 of the 7 outpaced average national job growth by a factor of at least 2 to 1. Personally, when I looked at this chart, I went through my deals for this year and I figured out that I did 82% of my transactions with users in the energy, financial services, healthcare, and IT software sectors. And if you do the same, I bet you'll find the same thing. These industries are driving the velocity behind our demand. Given our job growth, our labor pool, and these diverse industries, our office market is poised for a strong 2014. Now, I know that you're a hardcore group of data-driven brokers, so don't just take my word for it. We'll take a look at absorption. As you can see, we've had 15 consecutive quarters of positive absorption, and this year we're standing at about 1.3 million square feet. The majority of our leasing activity has actually been with small to medium-sized users, and so this absorption figure even becomes more interesting because it represents many small to medium-sized users under 50,000 feet that are growing simultaneously. Now, the next several slides that we show will give you some information and current trends with regard to vacancy, the pricing within our market, our aging inventories, and our big block inventory. And we'll explore a little bit how each one of those items will affect new construction in the market. Market-wide vacancies continue to fall from their high of 16.5% in 2009. The right-hand side of this slide will provide you with detail for each one of our 3 key submarkets: the CBD in gray, the Southeast Suburban in red, and the Northwest Corridor in blue. The market as a whole saw a 3% slide in vacancy over the last 3 years. And for 2013, you can see that the Southeast Suburban market and the Central Business District are settling in right about 13% for their year-end vacancy numbers. The Northwest Corridor saw a slight blip in their vacancy rate due in large part to the delivery of the EOS project, which was delivered without any pre-leasing, and also a couple of users that moved out of lease product into build-to-suit product. Over the next couple of years, you should anticipate that in the downtown core as well as southeast, we will see our vacancies start to approach that magic 10 to 11% figure. And when that happens, our construction growth will increase and our rental rates will increase. This next slide presents, on the left-hand side, market-wide Class A and B rental rates. And on the right-hand side, once again, rental rates for each key submarket. Now, what we've seen over the last 3 years is that our rents have increased slightly, but at a rather anemic rate. On the left-hand side, you can see that Class A and B rates came up year over year about 1 to 3%, which isn't much growth at all. As the market improves, we'll start to get that aha moment that one of our earlier speakers talked about, and we'll see annual increases in that 5 to 7% range, and rents will truly appreciate, and there will be a marked shift to a more landlord-friendly market. On the right-hand side of this slide, I wanted you to focus on a couple of different things. Our market-wide high rents are in the Central Business District, and they're right about $30 to $32 a foot. The B-class rates for the same market are at times $12 to $15 a foot less, which shows you that there's greater demand for A product downtown than the supply accommodates, and so our users are paying quite a premium to step up to Class A product. Now, Southeast Suburban, you don't see as great a rate separation because the buildings are not perceived to be as different, and there's greater supply of both. Northwest, you saw the only rate correction in the 3 key submarkets from 212 to 213, probably in response to the vacancies that we discussed a little bit earlier. Those submarkets that command the highest rental rates will always be the first markets where you'll see construction kick off. Another catalyst for new construction is an aging office inventory. And for Colorado, our market's growing old. 65% of our office product is over 21 years old. And the reason that I bring this up is that at that point, you start to see expensive systems upgrades, cosmetic upgrades, and even functional changes that need to happen for users to be attracted to the asset. Downtown, a whopping 88% of our buildings are over 21 years old. Only 11% of our market, or 11.5 million square feet, qualifies as newer product, 10 years and younger. So the reason that the age of our inventory is going to get to be more critical is that only the newest buildings will accommodate the design amenities, the finished materials, and the mechanical systems that are demanded by our newer users. And if we can't respond to that demand, those users will go elsewhere. So given the age of our inventories, I would anticipate that our new construction downtown will continue, and we will also see sites along the outlined suburban corridors, the transit corridors, most notably southeast. When you look at how old the buildings are getting down there, you'll start to see some new construction along those lines. Adding to concerns over our aging office product is our lack of Class A blocks. As you look at this chart, you can see that there are fewer large blocks available at this point in time than we've seen in quite a while. And as of third quarter, there were only 3 Class A blocks that could accommodate a corporate relocation of 200,000 feet and larger, and all of them were downtown. So fewer large blocks force users to look at build-to-own or build-to-suit alternatives if they have the time. If they don't have the time, then they start to look at states with better opportunities. So when we look at our decreasing vacancies and our increasing rental rates and our aging inventory and our lack of blocks, the next thing that we would anticipate on the horizon is new development. And so as we take our absorption chart from earlier in the presentation and overlay new construction with the red bars, you can see that 2013 is the first year since 2008 where we had over 1 million square feet of new construction come to Denver. As our recovery progresses, I would anticipate that those numbers would continue to increase into 2014 and 2015. Across the metro area, approximately 99 sites are proposed for about 10.5 million square feet, as you see on the map above in red and yellow. We have 10 sites currently under construction at 2 million square feet, as shown in the green. New office developments are active in all 3 of our key submarkets. We are ranked 4th in the United States for new office construction. Despite the number of projects that are proposed, I feel it's very unlikely that we're going to return to the go-go days of the late 90s. You just aren't going to see lenders willing to lend 90% of construction costs with little pre-leasing in a market where we've got very measured demand, stringent banking requirements, conservative underwriting guidelines. We're just going to see a limit to our developers' access to capital, and it's going to result in a much more disciplined approach to new development in the market. I would anticipate that probably 12 to 15% of those proposed sites will get built. That means funded and actually break ground before the end of this expansion cycle. Those sites with access to transit or live, work, play environments will be the first ones to go. Current construction provides insight into the drivers behind our office market at this time. The 2 pictures on the lower right-hand side of this slide are the Kaiser Permanente build-to-suit specialty medical office facility and the Schwab rebuild. And what you see here is that these 2 users had to build these facilities because there was no inventory available that was appropriate for their use. The remaining buildings that have been featured have all been started spec, although several will be significantly pre-leased prior to delivery, most notably the north and south wings of the Union Station development in 16M. Lower downtown and Cherry Creek have been areas that have established those higher rental rates that work well for developer pro formas, which is part of the reason why 70% of the projects that are under construction right now are in those neighborhoods. The next couple of years are going to present wonderful opportunities for additional new construction as well as significant renovations a la 1801 California, as well as adaptive reuse of functionally obsolescent product into newer, better uses. As new office product comes to market, we should all be aware of several trends that are affecting the users of space and the space that is constructed. Sustainability and infrastructure reflects our users' commitments to limiting their impact on the environment. Technology has changed the way that we do our work and where we do it. Generation Y is 80 million young people that will occupy our towers for 4 decades. And that great dark catch-all, external forces, those items outside of our immediate control that can turn our market upside down overnight. A focus on sustainability and infrastructure have been part of the fabric of Colorado for several decades. Office users value keeping our air, land, and water clean. Our new construction will be held to much higher standards. of construction protocols, materials, operating systems, and even management practices. Be aware of the broad-ranging impacts of LEED v4, which is due out in 2014. Green is definitely here to stay. The infrastructure within the state has been painstakingly planned and developed over the last 30 years. DIA, Union Station, and Fast Tracks were all built together to be comprehensive transit for our citizens as well as our visitors. DIA has become the 13th busiest airport in the world. Union Station will serve over 200,000 passengers a day and has anchored our urban core for a resurgence in urban living. Fast Tracks will connect our suburbs to our downtown core, and in 2016 to DIA. We have 42 separate transit-oriented office developments that could come to fruition over the next couple of decades. Changes in technology allow our mobile workforces to access company files from anywhere at any time. Our mobile devices allow us to work from home or work from touchdown areas throughout the office, giving us great flexibility. Our corporate offices are being opened up. Our space is being used to actually actively recruit the next generation of intellectual capital. Decreases in space usage per employee are saving our companies, depending upon who you talk to, 15 to 30%. Generation Y is the generation of workers aged 25 to 34. They're very well educated, and for the last 5 years, they've either been unemployed or underemployed. 1 in 3 of them still live with their parents. 2 in 3 of them will spend over half of their take-home pay to have a cool loft in lower downtown. They have no interest at all in owning a car. They're the first generation raised with social media, and because of this, they tend to blur the lines between their personal lives as well and their professional endeavors. So they require flexible hours as well as the ability to work from home in areas in the office where they can collaborate and have fun with their coworkers. I recommend that you surround yourself with these bright, unconventional people. They will be your bosses someday. The external factors include state and national government, global economy, and worldwide conflict. And although each one of these are very important, I feel the most important one for us to address today is the national government that we're living under. As we've all discussed today, our leaders are struggling to do their jobs. As opportunities to reform the tax code and fiscal and monetary policy, as well as the Affordable Care Act, come and go, we have corporations that are taking a wait-and-see attitude. The lack of predictability and confidence in the market have been cited as reasons for delays in hiring and capital expenditures. If we want to try to shift our growth out of second gear into overdrive, we have got to start finding an effective way to communicate with our leaders and tell them that reform is non-negotiable. By carefully scanning the environment for opportunities and challenges, we are better positioned to anticipate changes to the demand and supply for the office space in our market. As we have discussed, Colorado's market is posting solid fundamentals, and it has all of the requirements to soar into 2014.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. That was great. Now please welcome Jeff Hawks. He's going to talk to you about multifamily.
Finally, we'll get rid of the lesser specialties and talk about apartments where all the action is. Yep, that's right. I guess I woke you up with that one a little bit. I want to thank you for sharing this. This is my anniversary week. 40 years ago, I was a senior in college, jumped into my Fiat in Dubuque, Iowa, drove to the state capital, Des Moines, Iowa, went in, took a test, and came out with my real estate license. So the first listing I got was a 3-unit apartment building, and since then, 99% of all the sales I've done in real estate have been multifamily. But in that 40 years, I've never seen a better opportunity as a buyer, as a seller, or as an owner as we have at this moment here in Metro Denver. Why I say that is that in 2013, we have extreme renter demand. We have a lack of construction. We have a decline in home ownership, investor appetite. We have lenders bidding up against each other to loan us non-recourse 10-year money below 5%. The economy is starting to improve, and I think inflation is coming our direction. So what's not to like? The first thing we'll talk about is demand. And what demand has really is population. And that's what's happening right here in Metro Denver. I think sometime in the next 12 months, we'll end up having 3 million people living in Metro Denver. And I believe that in the next 15 years, that 3 million will turn to 4 million. And we can do that without almost anyone moving to the state. What you take a look at is the demand right here. As I mentioned, the state is now 5.2 million people. The age distribution. What we had back in 1990 was all the baby boomers had moved to town, but they really hadn't brought their parents with them. If you go over through 2000, you see that we're starting to move the direction where we're having a lot of people move here. We're having kids. Our kids are having kids, but no one is dying off. That's what's going to drive a lot of our new population. What about the young kids? 45,000 kids a year in Colorado graduate from high school. We have over 30,000 kids a year turning 20 in Metro Denver out there looking for a multifamily. How about buying a home? Metro Denver is the highest average home price in the United States, not on a coast. We have a real problem with entry-level housing. This could be another whole speech, but the construction defect litigation is going to stop all new condo development and maybe all new condo conversion development. And with the highest average home price, it is going to hold a lot of high-end renters from making that choice to jump to home ownership. In addition, the new banking legislation has really stopped people from moving into homes. I'm on the board of Arapahoe House, which is the drug and alcohol clinics here in town. In fact, they're a very good source if you would like to donate some money to someone that serves 14,000 people from Colorado every year. But on the board with me is a banker, and they told me they went back and looked at the home loans that they approved in 2005, 6, and 7. 85% of those loans could not be approved today under the new banking legislation. So what happens when you have all that demand? We have the lowest vacancy we've had in almost 30 years, 4.2%. So how much is 4.2%? We have almost 300,000 apartments. That means there's about 12,000 vacant units to help out those 30,000 20-year-olds that are turning 20 every year. 12,000 apartment units is only our turnover. The average turnover in apartments is about 50% per year. 50% turnover on 300,000 is monthly about 12,000 units. We only have vacant what we're turning over every single month. So rents. They'll tell you that rents have been going through the roof. We're now at $1.20. The real story, and Rick Peterson said it this morning, is we have not raised rents in 10 years. If you go back to the same store, to the same apartment that was existing 10 years ago, and look at their rents 10 years ago, the rents today, you'll find out that adjusted for inflation, they're almost 8% below. They really haven't changed. Why our rents are going up is over the last 10 years, we've built all this brand new product that's very nice, very high end, and those rents are going up. Renters have had a windfall over the last 10 years. They've spent a lot smaller percentage of their income on housing. And I think there's a long way that rents can go right now, and I think the renters can afford it in our marketplace. In the 1990s, that decade, that same statistic, the rents moved 92% in that 10 years. They've moved none in this last 10. People talk about the rents downtown, where everyone's going to get $2 per square foot per month downtown, where the suburbs and the nicest stuff down there is about $1.30. What is the difference between $1.30 rents and $2 rents? In downtown, you're going to find out they're building a little smaller unit. In the suburbs, they're still building units more around 1,000 square feet. So the difference between living in the suburbs at $1.30 and living downtown at $2 is $10 per day. And how many people will say, for $10 a day, I can save gas, I can save parking, and I can save that occasional DUI as I drive home in the suburbs after I leave Lolo. Okay, let's take a look at cap rates. It is a very active buyer market right now. We have 12 to 15 offers on every listing that we have. In the last 3 years, I have had 506 offers from 169 different buyers. Only 28 of the 169 actually bought something. There's a pent-up demand right now for buyers trying to buy. And what cap rates are they buying? Downtown core, 4.25 to 4.75. DTC, light rail Boulder, 4.75 to 5.25. Suburban, 5 to 5.5. Older product, 1990s, 5.25 to 5.75. 1980s, 5.75 to 6. And the 70s product usually trades in the mid-6s. Everyone talks about Denver as, oh my God, we are overbuilding the market. This is the elephant in the room. As I walked in today, they said, have we really overbuilt the market? Well, Rick Peterson grabbed my thunder because the word I have is we're not overbuilding, we're actually just catching up. At this moment, we have 16,000 units under construction. The 16,000 units will deliver over the next 3 years. So here's your permits. Looks pretty rough. 8,600 units this year were permitted. But if you take a look back over history, you're going to find out that in the 10 years between 1969 and 78, we built 90,000 units. 79 through 88, 43,000 units. 94 through 2003, 55,000 units. The last 10 years, we only built 15,000 units. The 16,000 units we have in the pipeline don't even catch us up from what normally we would have done over the last 10 years. To put that in perspective, if we actually move to 4 million people in the next 15 years, we need 20,000 units every 3 years just to maintain 4.2% vacancy. So where is the construction? You can see there's a pattern here. It's really, if there's any issue we have, all the construction is in 3 main areas: downtown, light rail, and the Boulder corridor. Downtown is the big one. If you take a look at downtown, you're going to find out that we currently have 11,700 units downtown. We are one of the lightest metro areas in the country for rental housing per 100 workers in our downtown. We have 11,700 units. We're adding 4,700 units at this moment. They'll all be delivered in the next 3.5 years. Now, I know all of you come here trying to get some good idea to take with you. So here's my idea. When you leave today, write out a check to me, Jeff Hawks, put it on your chair. I'll gather the money up and we'll buy a brew pub in Lodo. There's going to be 8,000 more kids living downtown Denver in the next 4 years. So where are they going to build next? Where else? The same place that retail is going, the same place industrial is going, the same place office is going. In 2016, 40 new miles are opening for the light rail, and you'll see a lot of new construction along there. There's nothing being built, though, under $200,000 per unit. Absorption. We take a look at the absorption over the last few years. We've been averaging about 4,000 units a year. The reason it's lower than the normal absorption over the last 20 years is because of the economy. We have roommates, we have people moving home or staying at home. The latest statistic now is roommates in one bedrooms. So my buddy and I get a one bedroom, he gets the bedroom and I get the fold out couch because we're trying to keep it down. How long can you live like that? How long can you live before your parents kick you out of the basement? Okay, when the economy picks up, I think we have about 25,000 people that are going to be moving back into the rental pool when that happens. The construction pipeline, how we look at it is here. We think we'll add about these many units between now and 2015. The absorption that I just talked about, if it stays at around 4,000 units, go here. And if we end up the day, we'll probably end up around 94% occupied for the market unless we get higher absorption, and I think we will if the economy does pick up. Construction cost. Right now, garden product, meaning 3-story suburban product, usually $165,000 to $175,000. Now that's all in, everything, developers' fees, land costs, soft costs, hard costs, but no profit. 4-story wrap product, which is the usual product along the light rail, that's $180,000 to $205,000. Podium, which is the parking garage below and building on top, $205,000 to $250,000. And high rise now, $285,000 to $350,000 per unit. Something I went back and looked at, when I graduated college in 1974, I was hoping to get between $8,000 and $10,000 annual salary as I graduated. In 1974, you could build apartments for $12,000 to $15,000 a unit. Today, the new graduates hope to get between $40,000 and $50,000 a unit I'm sorry, $40,000 to $50,000 per year income, it costs $160,000 to build something new today. Let's take a look at the sales volume. We were talking, I think, making fun of Tim Ritchie about why he didn't have volume in a certain year. My partner Doug Andrews and I had $1 billion in exclusive listings between June of 2008 and December 2009 and sold 0. We had 15 offers on every deal, and we had plenty of financing. We couldn't get the buyers and sellers together on a cap rate basis. That's what happened. Take a look at what the volume was going back to 2009, $352 million for Metro Denver. However, 2012 had $2.8 billion, and already year to date we're $1.6 billion. I think the new normal might be around $2 billion. If you took a look at the $2 billion we may do this year, it doesn't include almost any of the new product which starts selling next year. And over the last 3 years, the market has sold about $2 billion in older product being value add and renovated, and that will start appearing back in the market in 2014, 15, and 16. Top sales prices. Downtown, you're looking at $260 to $310. Rumor out there, we're going to break the $350 mark next year. Brand new suburban, $180 to $210. 1990s vintage, we're always seeing those 160,000 unit, and they're buying it to fix them up as a value add play. 1980s is all value add, and the 1970s product is usually bought by people that are doing more long-term holds. We had a property for sale in Boulder this year, 20-year-old garden product. We had 3 people over $265,000 a unit, and the seller took it off the market and said I'd never sell it that cheap. So in conclusion, I think the rents are going to keep on going up. Vacancy stays about 5%. The economy is going to pick up. Inflation accelerates. And don't forget to leave your check on your chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. I think the answer to the question is, how long can you live like that? I think it's when you meet either a nice boy or a nice girl, and then, right, you want to find your own place. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. I didn't mean you. I meant the young kid who's living with his parents. See, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, next, let's welcome Alan Lampert. Alan is going to talk to you about the retail market.
Thanks, Kelly, and thanks DU and the Burn School for having me here. I know a lot of you were hoping that Phil Hicks would show up, my partner, except for you, Natasha. He told me about this opportunity about 2 months ago, and he made it sound like it was something that, I should really do. Well, coming to find out that he's in New York at the Victoria's Secret lingerie fashion show. So you got me, and I'm thankful to be here, and I'm going to kind of take you through a trip around Denver, the Front Range and the metro area. First, we'll talk about some stats to kind of give you a sense of where we sit right now. So vacancy rates for neighborhood community shopping centers nationally and in Denver are pretty widespread. 10.5% vacancy rates nationally. Denver sitting well below, 4% below. That's a good place to be. That's a great place for us to be in Denver. With regard to rental rates in those same types of centers, you'll see that our rental rates are $4 a square foot below, and this is on a triple net basis. That's really good for us to be. We have lots of room for improvement. We have a lot of rent growth to come through. Regional mall vacancy rates are one thing that we look at to see the stability of any retail environment. Nationally, regional malls have generally experienced a strong recovery. We're seeing vacancy rates dropping from as high as 9.4% down to 8.4% in 2013. And average rental rates are coming in, at just below $40 a square foot. $40 a square foot in a regional mall is pretty low compared to Cherry Creek Mall. So Cherry Creek is our strongest mall trade area in the market. We're seeing the inline comparable sales at Cherry Creek at over $600 per square foot. And that's on top of triple net charges that can reach $45 per square foot. Now, the Cherry Creek Mall market is probably the strongest market in the Denver area. It's probably the strongest mall, 500 miles, with experiencing the deepest renaissance, with over 9 projects proposed or completed in the Cherry Creek North area. You see 250 Columbine, you see the expansion area next to Cherry Creek Mall. They've got the Safeway in, they've got the Bed Bath & Beyond area that they have to expand as well, and we'll probably see that redeveloping here soon. And even a mile away in 9th and Colorado, we're expecting to add another 250,000 to 400,000 square feet of retail space. We don't have any guesses yet on who the developer or the broker is going to be, but we should find out pretty soon. Now, sticking to malls, the Foothills Mall in Fort Collins is undergoing a redevelopment. Alberta Development is bringing that through the process to create a dramatic and active outdoor area while maintaining updated and an interior mall, adding the entertainment and other specialty retailers that are going to be new to the Fort Collins market. Now, staying on the north side, Westminster Mall is owned by the City of Westminster, and they are devising a 20 to 30-year plan on this 105-acre site that they own. Current plans call for a new downtown for Westminster with up to 6 million square feet of higher density mixed-use space, which I think is the right plan for the site. Westminster was brilliant in providing the necessary incentives for Forest City to build the orchards at I-25 and 144th Avenue, now one of the dominant retail centers in North Denver. On to Southwest Denver, GGP, with 2 malls remaining in Colorado, plan to renovate and expand the Southwest Plaza Mall to complement its Park Meadows Mall. And then down south, at Copper Ridge in North Colorado Springs, a new mall is proposed for the intersection of Interstate 25 and Powers Boulevard. Bass Pro Shops is opening next week in 120,000 square feet and expects 3 million visitors per year. Here's a couple of images of that project. You'll see a pretty dynamic restaurant concept that's going to be replacing their Aramorada restaurant. This is 16 lanes of bowling, a billiards room, and a restaurant associated with it. So it's often said that retail follows rooftops. Single-family detached residential construction is beginning to rebound, and multifamily permits are up, as Jeff said, and I'm seeing numbers like 600% increase in permits. The basics are that retail needs rooftops. Evergreen Development hit it out of the park with its Bluebird Center, a 2-city block joint venture redevelopment anchored by Sprouts on East Colfax. That is now Sprouts' #1 store in their chain. Suburban non-anchored centers have set records too, and awards. Alberta Development at Denver West and Hawkins Development at 120th and I-25 broke ground with over 85% pre-commitment from retailers, and they were at rental rates that were not previously seen in those markets. Major development that has occurred and is on the horizon is fueled by grocery stores jockeying for market share. We haven't seen this level of activity in over 10 years from all of these retailers. Other development has been sparked by what we call the hook and bullet retailers, such as Cabela's in Thornton and Lone Tree, and Bass Pro in Colorado Springs and Loveland. All of these developments are attracting additional anchors, pad users, and inline retailers. So we can run around all year long as brokers with tenants in our cars. We can roll out a program that will do 10 stores a year, 15 stores a year, 20 stores a year. But if they do not have good holiday sales, all of our work is probably for naught. We are expecting the holiday spending to inch up this year, forecasting about a 3.4% increase over last year's 3% increase. And then just yesterday, the stock market and other retailers got a boost when Macy's suggested that their earnings were up 22% over the quarter, providing a hopeful sign for a good close to a year and a good year next year. Despite the hype, e-commerce is still only a fragment of retail sales. Brick and mortar retailers are going omni-channel, tapping into your buying habits via smartphone and shopping on the internet. Online retailing is growing at 16% annually, and e-commerce continues to grow 5 times faster than overall retail. But I'm still not worried about my job. And in closing, at the end of it all, for retail tenants and property owners, Denver and Colorado is an island. People from over 500 miles away come here for whatever they need because they can find more here than where they are. If I had a map to insert with that 500-mile radius, you would understand what I mean. Analysts call Colorado overbuilt in retail, but I think that our shopping centers got shopped by a lot more than the 5.2 million people that live here. And that's why we're seeing success and sustainability in retail development and redevelopment in Colorado. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. I think the message is we should go shopping this weekend. Is that what you all took away? Okay, last but by no means least, Tim Ritchie. He's going to talk to you about institutional investments in Defend 2009.
Just for the record, it wasn't that bad in 2000. So my partner and I, Mike Wind, have been doing this for 23 years, and we have a team that works really, really hard. And we have the pleasure of interviewing over many, many, many years, many students coming out of college here, and many great students coming out of DU. And I thought I'd give you a feel for one of our recent interviews with the gentleman, bright gentleman we just hired, Charlie. And in the course of that interview, the kids always ask us, you know, how do you get to the position you're in, whatever that might be, I'm not quite sure, but I always want to know, how do you get there? And this is how the conversation went recently with Charlie. I said, Charlie, I want you to imagine living in the nicest house in Cherry Hills. And I want you to imagine having a vacation home in Vail and a second vacation home in Whistler, British Columbia. I said, Charlie, I want you to imagine not only having vacation homes, but I want you to imagine exotic vacations that you take around the world. I want you to think about putting your children in private schools, and I want you to think about, you know, the finest private schools here in Denver and the finest private, you know, universities across the country. And I want you to envision all these things, and I want you to envision someday speaking in front of, you know, a large group at the DU Expo. I said, Charlie, I want you to work, if you will work for Mike and I for 80 hours a week, and if you will give up your weekends, if you will give up all of your waking moments for this job, it's a great opportunity. If you will devote everything you have for this job, Charlie, I am certain that I will have all of those things at some point. So, you know, us brokers, it's tough. I thought when we covered the investment market here this afternoon quickly, rather than focusing on a lot of statistics, I thought maybe it would be helpful to just focus on, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 of the questions that we get posed most often during the course of our days. And those questions are really, you know, at the macro level. I want to start sort of macro and then maybe drill down quickly to Denver. What changes have we seen in the investment market over the last 3 to 6 months? Then I'll touch on what impact has the volatility of interest rates had on both buyers and sellers in today's investment world. And sort of a new phenomena, you know, what are we seeing in terms of the foreign interests coming into our country and investing in commercial real estate, and specifically in Denver? And then maybe a little bit about what deal flow looks like and some of the specifics of what we're seeing in Denver. So with that, let me start with on the macro perspective here. The gateway cities are super hot. And the gateway cities we like to call the Sexy Six. And those are Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, then Boston, New York City, and Washington, D.C. And those markets are hitting pricing levels that have never been hit in the history of this country. But as a result of that, we're now seeing those institutional investors trickle into the secondary cities. And guess what? Denver is no longer considered a secondary city. Denver, in all respects, is now considered a first-tier city, and we've experienced that really to a large degree over the last 6 to 12 months. These investors that are then moving into the cities beyond Denver, those Colorado Springs, Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake cities, they're moving into those markets to pursue higher returns, higher cap rates, and higher yields. And as a result of that flow of capital, you're seeing pricing inch up in the secondary cities. And the foreign investors are showing up across the country. Their primary focus, again, are the gateways. But I'll talk to you in a minute about what we're seeing here in our market locally. Generally speaking, as we alluded to earlier in the presentation, the deal flow, the deal activity is very, very steady. It's not choppy. It's actually a great market to be trading in and out of right now. There's great capital flows and not a lot of ebbs and flows. Deal sizes, it's interesting, are definitely on the rise. If I look back on just some of our activity this year alone, I think our team has traded probably 4 major CBD office towers in the last several months, and they have ranged in price from $170 million to $217 million. And for little old Denver, those are pretty good sized deals, and that's probably a function of pricing increasing, but probably more so a function of long-term holders that are now in a position to take some profits. What's the impact of the volatility in the interest rate market? Well, the first and foremost thing is that volatility, which seems to be on the radio, it seems to be affecting the equity markets, the debt markets, that trickles through to what we do on a daily basis. I mean, if rates are bumping one day, or there's sequestration, or something's happening at the Fed, you'll see lower bid support, or if it's the inverse, we'll see increased bid support. It's amazing how something that's so macro would impact, what we're doing every day. But we haven't seen what we call the core properties, the AA properties, impacted to any large degree by this interest rate increase in volatility. Those really trophy deals tend to be acquired by investors that are not leveraged, not using a lot of debt, and consequently, if they do use that, it's low leverage. So we haven't seen any impact on pricing there. But when you drop down into the B's and the C's, and the buildings that are potentially value-add investments, we have seen impacts of this interest rate movement. And what we have is not necessarily in pricing, but sort of in the structuring of the capital stack. So on those deals, we're seeing investors move to place shorter-term debt. So now they're looking at 3 and 5 year mortgages, as opposed to a year ago they were definitely placing 7 and 10 year debt. And floating rate debt still is very, very much in favor. So LIBOR financing is still very active in the marketplace, and that gives you an indication of how generally investors do not perceive a lot of interest rate out there, generally speaking, interest rate risk. All that being said, the assets that have existing loans that have difficult yield maintenance provisions, penalties, in the last 3, 6, 9 months, we've seen investors more willing to assume those loans, whereas a year ago, they wanted the assets delivered unencumbered and they wanted to put new debt on them. The REIT stocks have obviously come down a bit, and we have seen owners that for the first time are nervous about interest rates increasing. Some of those owners are now considering selling. So I think we're on the front edge of some nervousness about that, so impacting some more motivation to potentially become a seller. One of the more interesting phenomena is recently we're seeing a lot of foreign investment. So there's about a dozen areas of the world, countries, et cetera, that are circled here. And in the coastal gateway cities, you're seeing the Koreans, very, very active, Japanese, Chinese, the Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, the Israelis, and the Egyptians. What I've circled in red are the players that we've seen in Denver. and actually have sold assets in the last 6 months too. So the Norwegians are active, the Canadians, the Germans, the Mexicans, and the South Americans. We did not see this level of foreign interest in Denver in our entire career until about 6 to 12 months ago. Deal flow is big. We did a survey internally at Cushman and asked our fellow brokers kind of how do they feel about deal flow in their areas, and believe it or not, Denver is very robust. Denver's in the top 3 in the country, and we're talking about buying and selling activity. So the top 3 markets would be San Francisco, Denver, and Boston, and then you have certain moderate activities happening in cities that previously were extremely hot, like Washington, D.C. has cooled off quite a bit just in the last 6 months, and that's obvious to all of us as to why. Increasing vacancies and a lot of uncertainty in a market like that. But even in Atlanta or Chicago and Dallas are more moderate activity. I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at a couple data points here. We are in the midst, in basically all asset classes, hitting many pricing records. So these are 3 deals that we've traded, we handled the sale of in the last 6 months here in Denver, all representative of different sort of pricing hurdle benchmarks and records. So the first one on the right is the DirecTV buildings, and that building was a single-tenant long-term investment-grade credit lease. It traded to a Canadian investor called Artist. And they paid about a 6% cap rate, and they paid $277 a square foot. $277 a square foot for suburban Denver office is a very, very, very large number, historically speaking. In the middle is 1001 17th Street. You may remember that as the Mountain Bell building. It's a late 70s building, but it's been completely redeveloped. And that building traded for $330 a square foot a couple months ago, and that was actually a domestic public REIT that bought that, Franklin Street Partners. But behind them and around them, we had multiple foreign buyers vying for that deal. And then on the left is a pretty interesting asset that we are in the market with and in the sales process moving towards a closing. But I can't speak to the metrics of this specifically, but I will tell you there are now more than 1 building in the Union Station area, lower downtown area, that are either in the process of being sold or under contract that are trading at prices approaching or at $600 a square foot. So the highest trade for a Denver CBD office building is $430 a square foot, so previously. So that gives you a pretty good idea of how much momentum there is in pricing. Some trends, opportunities, and predictions here for the investment market. The value-added investments that everybody wants, they're scarce. There's less and less vacancy by the day, and there's fewer and fewer of those opportunities. Investment demand will remain really, really strong for the core, we call the core Class A leased, low-risk assets. New construction that's coming out of the ground in lower downtown is going to continue to be sold, and it will continue to be sold at record pricing. Foreign capital is going to continue to push into Denver, and I could imagine seeing them stretch way beyond the CBD. The investor focus, as we alluded to earlier, is really oriented in terms of office product in the suburbs, first and foremost, in and around the light rail station stops. What are the current opportunities? It's sort of the tweener space between the buildings that are fully leased and the buildings that have significant vacancy. And that's where there are very few bidders and a little higher yield and a better price per square foot, and we call those the core plus properties. We also see great opportunity in development. So the margins in development right now, the difference between your cost and your exit price is as great as we've ever seen it in our careers. Granted, there's a lot of risk there. Looking to the future, I think you're going to continue to see this wave of foreign capital come into little old Denver, and we are in the center of the bullseye. It's great. And pricing, this is going to sound a little bit strange to some of us, but the A product. It could be suburban, it could be CBD, but the best of the best, trading at mid 5.5 cap rates, is going to become more of the norm than the unusual. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Now it's your chance to ask a few questions. Go. It's hard to see you, so if you're putting your hand up and I'm not seeing you, you'll have to shout. But if you have a question, this is your opportunity. You can ask him whatever you want. Oh. For Alan?
Yep.
Do you want to repeat it?
No, but I think actually Tim might be the best one to talk about that.
Cap rates on retail.
Cap rates on retail. So the best of the best grocery-anchored shopping centers would be now dipping in the upper 5% cap rates. Power centers would be kind of 7-ish. Lifestyle centers are all over the board, but generally speaking, the retail cap rates are trending downward.
Thank you. Other questions? If you make it a really good one, no one will be angry that you're making them wait for a drink. And if you don't ask one, we'll let you go, and I think I'm supposed to turn it back to the folks officially running it. So last chance. Let's thank the panelists. Thank you, Tim, Alex.
Just a few more things. Thank you very much for attending. Another hand for the panelists, please. They volunteered their time. We have just a couple more things, and please get your last mark over here, and as soon as you have your card, your index card marked with 4 marks, you can take to the front registration area and exchange it for your continuing education certificate. Next, we have the yellow sheets. If anybody was able to fill that out, please give us some input on what you thought about it. It will help us do a better job next year. And then lastly, when you're getting your drinks out in the room back here, we're going to do the balloon drop. There are 100 gifts, and they range from bottles of wine to more tickets to iPads. There are 100 gifts in those balloons out of 500 balloons. So try not to climb all over each other to grab them, but we're going to have the balloon drop, and that's sponsored by Fitzsimmons Redevelopment Authority. We'll be doing that in just a few minutes. In the meantime, if you'll gather back there, we can do the grand prize drawing for those of you who turned in the bingo cards, and Wells Fargo is giving 6 other great prizes out as well. See you back there, and here's my partner, Phil.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank all your sponsors. They're the ones that make this possible, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.